Go. Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to RW Week Online panels. I'm your usual host, Paulo Speaks, strategic advisor and coordinator at RW Week, and I will be your host for today, for today's live panel discussion. And our topic is one of the most talked about areas in the industry right now: real estate tokenization, and whether it is finally ready to move from exciting pilot projects to markets that can scale. So we have heard big promises for years: more access, more liquidity, fewer middlemen. But are we really changing the way people invest in real estate, or are we just putting existing structures onto blockchain technology and giving them cooler marketing? That's exactly what we're here to explore today. And I'm joined by three fantastic guests with very different perspectives and experiences from across the ecosystem. We have Borui, General Project Manager and UAE Regional Director at Finloop, Hong Kong. We have Denis, CEO of Blocksquare, one of the pioneers in real estate tokenization infrastructure, and Joseph, General Manager at PRYPCO, bringing valuable insights and rapidly evolving UAE market. So let's move beyond the buzzwords, challenge a few assumptions, and hopefully answer the question everyone is quietly asking: is this the beginning of a new real estate era, or are we still in the demo version? So let's get started. I'm stop speaking right now. The guest, the panelists, feel free to introduce yourself. How would you do to a new person? How you end up in Web3, how you end up building what you're building right now, maybe interesting failures, maybe interesting achievements. So yeah, who wanna go first?
Happy to take it on first if you want, Paulie. Hi, my name is Joseph. I'm the general manager of PRYPCO. PRYPCO is the first real estate organization platform in the MENA region. And what we actually did is to partner up with the Dubai Land Department, which is the registry here in Dubai. And we've tokenized the title deed itself, which is the first kind of its in the world. Usually, tokenization happens around the wrapper on an SPV level, but we were the first in the world to actually done it on the title deed level. We're regulated by VARA, and me personally, I've been in the region for the past 12 years. I'm Lebanese by origin, so also in the Middle East since birth. And throughout my career, been in fintech and finance, and most recently in the past 6 years into wealth management, and joined PRYPCO about 2 years ago to spearhead this initiative and essentially to put Dubai on the map of tokenization.
Awesome,
I can go
awesome.
next. I can go
Um,
next.
yeah, sure.
If just Joseph, pleasure to meet you. You mentioned being Lebanese. One of my close partners in Blocksquare, who lives in Dubai. It's a real estate guy in Dubai, Makram Hani. He's Lebanese as well. So you know. I'm Denis, by the way, CEO and co-founder of Blocksquare. How I ended up in Web3 was, I think, beginning of 2016. We started researching blockchain applicability of smart contracts in different verticals, and I done my first real estate investment outside of my primary residence at the time, or just a year prior or 2 years before. And we touched upon the vertical of real estate, and it seemed very interesting. Like you said, tokenizing the title seemed very far-fetched, and it still is for Europe. But tokenizing the economic rights that derive from the ownership, it's something achievable. And the first property we've ever tokenized was in 2018. We sold it to 18 investors in 4 different continents. And it was a small parking space that we bought for 15,000 euros in Tech Park in Ljubljana. And the reason why we went with such a small property is because nobody wanted to work and actually do it. Everybody was talking about it. Nobody wanted to do it. So, we rolled out our sleeves and did it. I think it was the first publicly sold tokenized property in the world, I believe. And here we are today, 200 million tokenized on the infrastructure. We work with multiple marketplaces around the world and bring them the infrastructure required and the legal models required to bring real estate assets on chain.
Magnificent. Well, Dennis, love your story. I think it captures what building in Web3 really looked like in those early days. I think that I joined much later than 2016 because at that time I still was like a kid. But most people were still trying to figure out how to explain blockchain to their families at dinner, and I'm struggling with it even today. Though you were already exploring how it could work with for real estate, and the fact that you started by tokenizing a small parking slot in 2018 and selling it to 18 investors, pretty brilliant. Maybe not the most glamorous property in the world, but somebody had to be first, right? So there is something very powerful in your point that tokenizing economic rights was achievable and achievable now, even when the market wasn't ready to believe it yet. But yeah, starting small is pretty admirable. And Borui, also happy to know your story better.
Yeah, thanks, Borui. And thanks for kind invitation of RW Week. I am Borui in Chinese pronunciation, and General Project Manager from Finloop, Hong Kong, and you can just call me Borui. So it's nice to meet you, Joseph and Denis. So Finloop is a Hong Kong, SFC licensed fintech company with Type 1, Type 4, and Type 9 license. And we are AI-driven, global one-stop Web 2 and Web 3 wealth management platform. So we have entered this tokenization area for the last 2 years. So and in Hong Kong market, we are the only platform that has tokenized SFC authorized investment product, which in Hong Kong is the product to the public, to the retail investors. And we also have many partners that like Bobo Group, and we tokenize their IP product. And of course, there's the gold is now is in Pratvalley, the days before. So we have a tokenized Canadian gold mine and many other kinds of different type of assets. So we actually have been the pioneer in the APAC market. So, but back in the days, I was in Hong Kong for the past many years. So I was in the state-owned financial institution, a security firm that I was conducting, OTC option trading, and I think in the OTC option trading is the most sophisticated trading form in the financial product. So I understand how difficult and how complicated it will be in the underlying, whether you have to talk to the counterparties, you have to, bidding price in the market and everything. So once there's a chance to enrate and to reach a tokenized security project, which is like 3 years ago, there's a circular issued by the Hong Kong SFC, which is the regulator. So I think it's will be greatly enhance the efficiency, to get the product settlements and all this many human logistic things. So I think it's a much more future development for the financial market. So I think it will be a really pleasure to join this panel today, along with so many experts in tokenization.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, and I really appreciate your story, Borui. Is that it bridges the traditional financial world and this new tokenized economy, right? You said 20 years in Hong Kong and came from OTC.
No, just 5 years. Yeah.
5 years. 5 years.
Yeah.
Anyways, 5 years in Web3 is like 20 in Web2. But so you have seen firsthand how complicated underlying assets through your OTC trading experience and settlement processes can be. And I think that experience exactly gives you a healthy dose of realism, which Web3 honestly needs from time to time.
Yeah,
and in just
exactly.
2 years, I think that Finloop Hong Kong has become one of the pioneers in the APAC region, operating as a licensed platform and even tokenizing gold mines, because apparently maybe real estate is not that ambitious enough, but maybe other panelists will argue with that point, and I hope so. So I also like that you're building between Web 2 and Web 3 rather than pretending the old system will disappear overnight. So yeah, the future probably belongs to people who understand both worlds, and that's awesome. I'm ready to torture you guys with the questions themselves. I hate simple questions. I lean towards more philosophical ones, so bear with me. The first one will be: are we truly tokenizing real estate or simply digitizing traditional ownership structures on new rails? Because I think that the honest answer can be something in the middle, putting old wine into new bottles. Yeah, feel free to go first, Joseph, maybe.
Yeah, sure. I have two views with regards to that question. So if you want to be philosophical, I can be philosophical. First is, I would say it doesn't really matter, because as long as you're giving access to an unaccessible asset class, I think you're already achieving a very big part of what tokenization really is. Whether you're wrapping it with an SPV or giving a direct ownership to the title deed itself, you're solving a very big problem. First of all, which is the access to it, and potentially later on the liquidity and so on. We can go into the details of it, but most importantly, a lot of people cannot access or afford real estate. The average property price here in Dubai is roughly around $400,000. Not everybody sits on $400,000 to buy a one-bedroom apartment in downtown Dubai. Same thing in London or in France or everywhere else in the world, right? So it's not given to everyone. And even if you want to take a mortgage and put 20% on that, or whatever upfront payment that you have to put all over the world, here in Dubai is around 20%. It's still not as achievable as anyone would think. So tokenization gives you the access or ability to provide access to everyone in the world, and essentially putting that asset class on the same level for everyone. Now, that's my first view. My second view is that in the recent pilot project that we've run with the Dubai Land Department, we've transformed what the traditional tokenization projects or frameworks are, from tokenizing an SPV specifically with their economic rights, to an actual ownership, directly tokenizing the title deed. So every token becomes a legal title deed under your name, given to you by the Dubai Land Department, recognizing your ownership in that property, and with that gives you the rent and the capital appreciation and everything that comes with owning a property. So that's moving from, let's say, the traditional way of packaging real estate and giving access to everyone to this specific asset class, to actually putting ownership and legality behind it, where a government from one of the strongest government in the world, and one of the strongest economies in the world, is giving you its legal certificate and backing that you own this piece of property. And this entire process is regulated by a regulator here in Dubai, which is VARA, Virtual Asset Regulatory Authority. And in the first pilot phase, we've tokenized 10 properties. And overall, we have around 20 million dirhams worth of tokenized assets right now on chain. Over 1,500 investors have invested in these properties. And what's the interesting part is that 70% of these investors never invested in Dubai's real estate market before. So that gives you an indicator that, back to my first point, that a lot of people don't have access. And what we're trying to do is to enable that. So whether you're wrapping it or you're not, what's most important is providing that access. So I'm repeating the same thing over and over again, but that's the kind of the message that I want to pass on.
Okay, Dennis, what are your thoughts? Do you agree with Joseph?
Well, completely. I mean, there's multiple ways of how you can tokenize real estate, and the first thing he was explaining is essentially, it doesn't really matter how you achieve it, as long as it's as close as possible to mimicking the rights, the risks, and that you receive with investing in real estate, right? And tokenization increases access. Now, Dubai is a strong economy, but at the same time, it's a very top-down country, right? So changing laws, regulation is something that it's fairly easy to achieve. Most countries that have a more slower mechanism of making effective changes will most probably never arrive at this level of tokenization and tokenizing title. And at least not in the foreseeable future. I think tokenization will fly or take over the world earlier or faster than land registries in Europe could adapt to it. So the point of creating wrappers is the best possible solution for tokenizing real estate. Now, when you say a wrapper, what is a wrapper, or what is let's look at what ownership actually is. Ownership of a real estate asset is written somewhere in a deed that you own that asset. But ownership is a bundle of rights. You have a set of rights that derive from that ownership of title. And some of these rights give you economic benefits. Some of these rights give you the benefit of using it, maybe changing it, etc. And they also have confinements. It's not like it's, you can do everything you want on a piece of land, for instance. There's permitting rights that you need to have to build maybe a specific building on top of it, or change an old building or a previous building. Or if it's a unit within a larger development, you have confinements as well. So it's not like full freedom when you own real estate. But the interesting part is that with tokenization technology and a proper way of legally structuring things, you can dissect this bundle of rights so that it just captures the economic part, the economic benefits, right? And this is very similar to basically what banks do already around the world when they lend against real estate. It's a very, very similar process. The only difference is that this process is tokenized. And so it's digital, and now it becomes accessible to anyone around the world. The problem why real estate, even though it's the largest asset class by far in the world, has not taken the RWA space just as treasuries and other financial instruments around, is that it's much more fractionalized, right? So it's the largest asset class, but it's not like gold, which is a single same asset basically all over everywhere. So there's these nuances and differences, and obviously you need to understand the market you're investing in. So I think the most wise way of entering tokenized real estate as an investor is to diversify, and diversifying with tokenization in the picture allows you as an investor with $10,000 to have the same risk distribution as a REIT that manages trillions. And that's very powerful. And I think we're not talking enough about that thing, because as well, the structures, that form tokenized real estate, and they differ. There's no one single way of tokenizing real estate that has become the golden standard and everybody's doing it this way. So diversifying is as well diversifying risk into these different structures, right? But ultimately, when you look at the tokenized deal, the fundamentals are important. So where is the real estate asset located? At what price are you entering the investment? What's the exit outcome? Is there a secondary market for it? Or is this a development project where there's a fixed exit at the end? Is there tradability in between? What are the rights that you as a token holder receive, and what are the things that you can do with that token? Because if it's just a digital representation of a share in an SPV that cannot be traded, that cannot be transferred, then it's a digital certificate. It's not a token. And the token in the true DeFi crypto RWA world is something transferable. And I'm really a big advocate of whatever structure there is, transferability is one of the key benefits of tokenization besides access. And so if it ticks those two boxes, and if the underlying real estate asset is of a certain quality, and perhaps there's financial credibility as well, and proof that whoever is operating this property is successful in their business, then these are all, I would say, good signs. But doing your own research in the end is, I think, an important thing that we always talk about. Um, and I think I see more and more tools that will help us and help investors research tokenized real estate. Then I think AI is a big player here that can help out people get around the market.
Very interesting. Like, one thought that I have after both of you expressing your thoughts, like Joseph, your point is very practical. If tokenization gives more people access to an asset class that has traditionally been difficult to enter, then you're already solving a real problem. Though, Dennis, I also appreciate the reminder that ownership has never been a simple concept, right? Real estate is already a bundle of rights and responsibilities and restrictions, and tokenization doesn't change the reality overnight. And maybe industry kind of spends too much time arguing about whether this is real ownership when investors are thinking, can I diversify my portfolio without buying an entire apartment building? And yeah, maybe real estate has always been harder to fractionalize than something like gold or bonds, which is exactly why this challenge matters. Borui, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Joseph and Dennis's idea is, very in the same line here. So whether we are, truly tokenizing real estate, I don't think is a basic problem. So if we need to, look into the instance of tokenization and the instance of real estate, actually the tokenization is basically just change the storage form of the register, to improve efficiency and a lot of, other benefits. And in my view, the instance of real estate ownership is just land ownership register or the contract. The land ownership register is just like in Dubai, and the contract certified by the authority is more likely in Hong Kong. So, and of course, in the region, there are two most valuable things. That is the company and, of course, the land. So, you can see just in most of the region that the transfer of ownership of these two things, company and land, always requires the payment of stamp duty. And that's basically the authorization of the authority. So this is also why the tokenization of real estate and stock received the most widespread attention, because for the truly tokenization of real estate stock, the participation of the regional authority is essential. Just like the crypto, what they're doing with the Dubai Land Authority, I think is a really a pioneer example for the global actually. So here's my opinion is just basically the wrap of both the all the speakers. Whether we call it truly tokenizing actually doesn't really matter. The more practical question will be what problem we are trying to solve. If we want to greater efficiency or deeper secondary liquidity, there's multiple paths. A wrapper, just tokenizing the rates, something like this. So we don't really need to hammer on the single definitions.
Very wise. I think that we're trying to solve kind of and the problem of liquidity and the problem about secondary markets and the problem of fractionalization, but it's hard. So everyone is working all together to do it in a perfect manner, especially with the current fragmented legal landscape. But we're not going to touch it right now. But yeah, important reality check. Thank you, Borui. Sometimes we talk about tokenization if it is magically changes everything overnight, but in many cases, in almost 99% of the cases, it starts by changing how ownership records are stored and transferred. And when you're dealing with the two of the most valuable assets in society, companies and land, authority and legal recognition matter a lot, like a lot. And the blockchain can be incredibly efficient, but if the institutions behind it don't recognize those records, people will still ask, yes, but like who says I actually own this? That's why regulators and land registers and trusted authorities have such a big role to play in this transition. Though I think that my next question is kind of tied to the legal one. how do you think which market will become the first major success story for real estate tokenization, and why has it not happened yet? Or maybe it happened, but I just don't know the answer. And I hope that there will be maybe a little bit of a fight between UAE and Hong Kong. So who will want to go first?
I'm happy to take this one, and I mean, you guys know my answer. I'm very biased, and I'm gonna say obviously the UAE is winning the race, and it's I mean again, it really depends from everyone has its own perspective obviously and scenarios, and I think Dennis, you've nailed the nail right on the head, right? So we have processes here in the UAE where it's much easier to kind of to roll out policies, launch new things, because there is an ambition, but there's also decision makers that drive the country and specifically the Emirates here forward, in a much efficient way, and that helps a lot, right? So in only 4 years, there was a regulator that wasn't even born 4 years ago, which was VARA, and right now, kind of all major, let's say, Web3 companies are coming to Dubai and establish presence here in Dubai because there is a well regulated framework already established here in the country and keeps on getting more robust and robust over time. And other countries all over the world are taking the example of the regulator and actually drafting these regulations um, around what Dubai is doing. And I can give you a couple of examples. So, in the specific case of real estate tokenization, specifically, the country of Georgia is also launching their own real estate tokenization project, very similar to what Dubai is building. And we at PRYPCO, we're very humbled and grateful to be part of that project also in Georgia. So we're also helping them building the rails over there. But that shows that what Dubai has built here, other countries are looking, other countries are trying to implement the same. And who is going to win eventually is who is going to have the most robust framework of regulations to protect client assets, because that's the most important thing, kind of at the bottom of everything.
Dennis?
I have one remark. You mentioned Georgia. Interesting fact. I had the possibility of having like an interview years ago with a lady from Georgia who was involved in implementing the usage of the Bitcoin blockchain in land registration, and that was, I think, almost 10 years ago when they did that. And the funny part, why they did it, I asked, why did you implement this thing in Georgia? And at the time, the answer was, off the record, but now I think it can be brought on record, was, well, we have always been a bit scared of Russia. And it was a very interesting point that I didn't get at the time, but then, this whole situation happened, and it's something that, um, nations change, policies change, rulers change, and they wanted to basically create an immutable record of ownership proof, for international courts in case of something bad happening, right? And we treat the world as this safe place that's, but it's, it can change. Things can change. And so here, the power blockchain was really utilized for the benefit of the people of Georgia. Now, going to tokenization and which market will win, I don't think there's going to be a single market. I think it's going to be a global market. I think there's going to be different rules that will maybe crystallize over time, for people to be able to invest. Because if I'm an investor, I'd love to invest in Dubai real estate. Currently, I think I can't, because I think it's limited still to only people with residency in Dubai. Am I correct? I can't do that through PRYPCO. I'd love to, but I can't. But I would not put all my eggs in the Dubai basket. Maybe I want to do some New York real estate as well, and maybe London is repricing and it's a good entry point, etc. Right? So I think on the demand side, it's going to be a very global market, just like you have crypto markets being very global, right? Um, And then obviously the entry and exit points are going to be localized somehow and regulated to keep things safe for people. At the same time, I think it's like establishing an LLC or a company. More or less, the process, the bureaucracy is a bit different around the world, but in the end, it's a company, and the regulation around companies differs mainly on taxation, and not so much on how and what you can do with a company, right? In different countries. So I think it's going to be a very similar side on the supply end. There's not going to be so much differences. Everybody's going to treat it, okay, this is a business, and you can invest in maybe shares in that business, right? Here you can invest in tokens that derive its value from the underlying real estate asset. I think why we haven't seen a single market win yet is because the demand side has not grown yet. I think that on the supply side, we have billions literally sitting to be tokenized. There's a lot of interest. The problem is that these opportunities usually yield from rental cash flows between 5, 6, maybe 7% plus asset appreciation. And currently the market that's interested in this is the DeFi crypto market, more or less. And you're competing with products. Years we've been competing with DeFi product that yield 25% or 18%. And this juiced up yield is the one that was really hard to compete with when you have real estate that doesn't have a secondary market that's as liquid as a crypto token, and it doesn't have the same potential, right? So this whole casino gambling environment of crypto was as well, holding back real estate. Today, when we are in a repriced market in crypto where yields are becoming, 3 to 4%, then real estate becomes a very interesting alternative investment. But the market needs to understand it's not instantly liquid except for a discount. So you can always sell real estate, but the question is for which price? And with tokens, it's going to be the same. If I bought it at 10, and if I want to sell it, I can always sell it at 8, because somebody's going to buy it and arbitrage between 8 and 10, and they're going to hold it for a period of time. But if I buy it at 10 and want to sell it at 12, the market needs to happen. So, that's I think the reality that's never going to change in terms of liquidity for tokenized real estate. And I think, as more we see demand growing, the more we will see supply coming in, and it's unlimited. And then quality comes into play.
Awesome, Boru.
Well, I think the successful story is actually the Dubai, of course, with the Dubai Land Authority that cooperates with PRYPCO, and I think it's really a pioneer and really a good example for the global markets, to learn from. But in a more general side, I believe a market that's suitable for the real estate tokenization needs the around 5, I think, points. Well, first, the market needs to be, in a containable scale, and we want a market that can act like a sandbox where the regulators or the financial institutions can, experiment and adjust quickly, without shaking the whole system. I don't think, in the near future, the United States or the Chinese mainland would conduct such things, because the market is too big. And the second is the high turnover rate of people. I think a place, with a transcendent international workforce that wants to involve in property, and without burdens of direct ownership, is of course the one of the characters. And like Dubai, like Hong Kong, and Singapore is this kind of place. And the third is that the yields of this kind of investment have to be real and high, because no amount of fractionalized creates demand where the underlying returns doesn't justify it. For example, in Hong Kong, this year's the monthly rent is actually already higher than the mortgage for 30 years. You need to pay the bank. So basically, it's just you bought a house, and the monthly return is you can just pay off your mortgage. So, and the base price per unit is high, because the base price unit is, if the base price per unit is high in one area, the fractional ownership becomes a good choice for the majority of people. Especially, I think crypto is not a professional or a property investor only product. It's actually to the retails, and the investor base will be broadened. And the fifth is and of course the biggest one, the Joseph and Denis already mentioned, a robust and also advanced legal system. Tokenized interests are recognized and clear rule, and of course the stamp duty are also in place. So according to these criteria, some of us, maybe already have answers, just I say before, Singapore, Hong Kong, and I think, the other financial, offshore center like Cayman Islands, BVI, even, countries in Europe like Luxembourg, even, or much more huge country, with a huge land but a small market, like even Australia, this jurisdiction, can have a mature financial infrastructure and a demand of openness into the innovation. And I think before we see, of course, Dubai already done it with crypto, and one final piece is still missing. That is the of course, Dennis already mentioned that is the universal legally binding bridge between the on-chain token and off-chain land registry. So once the jurisdiction build a bridge with a clean, streamlined process, I think massive samples will just follow. And at that day, I believe is closer to most people assume. Yeah.
Okay. I was hoping for like a whole, I don't know, angry fight where one of you will say it's Dubai and where otherwise and another person will say it's Hong Kong. No, you're wrong. No, it's Singapore. No, it's actually Switzerland. But okay, we all kinda agree on both points that Dubai is pioneering and setting the standard for the global market. And it's not going to be a one single winner, but it's going to be a global market itself, right? Because the real estate itself is fractionalized. And I do really like the balance of the optimism and realism in all three perspectives here. Joseph, you have shown what can happen when ambition meets execution. I love that. I will steal it for one of my panels. So thank you. Vara didn't even exist a few years ago, and Total Dubai is one of the global centers of digital assets because decision makers chose to move quickly, which thanks to them. Dennis, your story from Georgia is actually very powerful and inspiring. Reminder that blockchain isn't only about efficiency or profit. Sometimes it's about resilience and trust and protecting records when the world becomes uncertain. And right now it's incredibly uncertain. I think that it started with COVID, and after that I stopped planning anything for like maybe 1 week ahead, and still you're opening Twitter and something happens. So, yeah. And I also agree with the point that there probably won't be a single winner. I will highlight it again because real estate is local by nature, while investor demand is increasingly global. And the demand side, many crypto investors grew up in a world of chasing 10x returns. I will raise a hand. I'm Web3 native, so I came into this space for 10x returns. So convincing people like me, maybe brain damaged people, that a steady 4 to 6% yield backed by real assets is exciting, it can be surprisingly hard sell. So maybe the target audience should be different. And Borui, your idea of using markets like Dubai as a sandbox makes a lot of sense as well. Prove the model at the scale without shaking the entire system. Maybe the first success story won't be a dramatic overnight victory, but a few markets quietly showing that real yields and smart regulation and practical use cases can work together. So Yeah, that's how often the lasting change begins. Though maybe on next question there will be a debate. What is the single biggest obstacle preventing real estate tokenization from reaching meaningful scale today? If everyone will agree on regulation, I will jump off the panel. But no, of course not. This is like the most obvious one, but maybe we can dive deeper in that. Joseph?
It's regulations, actually. I'm joking. um, I don't think there's a single, let's say, element that is blocking real estate from scaling. I think there's quite a few of them. There's not only one point that is preventing it from going. Um, and what I want to share is probably two of these points. Number one, or maybe three. Number one is education, and that's not only when it comes to real estate or as an asset class. It's actually any type of investing all over the world. Actually speaking, and I'm giving an example specifically here in the MENA region, 50% of the region's wealth is held in cash at the bank and not invested. And the second largest, let's say, asset invested is real estate, which is obvious because this is the largest asset class in the world. However, there's a lot of education that needs to be done on what people need to do with their money. How do you plan for retirement later on? What's your emergency fund? How do you build your goals for your future self, and how you expose yourself to better opportunities? And I think these stuff are missed out, specifically when it comes to earlier education. So, for example, I've studied finance. It's probably the closest ever major possible at university to investing and to being exposed to wealth management, and yet not a single course about how to put your money to work and how to invest in the stock market or even take a loan or whatever. Not a single course of that. So you start asking the question of what is it that we're educating our kids to do when it comes to their money. So maybe we should start there. Education starts at home. So parents should potentially start looking at educating their kids on the best practices of investing. So education is number one. Number two is liquidity. And we're talking about the largest asset class in the world, but at the same time, the largest illiquid asset class in the world, right? So around the world right now, you have $700 trillion of wealth, out of which 60% is in real estate. Can you imagine using tokenization to make everything liquid all of a sudden? Impossible, right? So we need to be also very realistic. Tokenization is going to help for sure, but there's also a lot of stuff that we need to take into consideration. We're moving I would say, liquid to semi-liquid asset class to all of a sudden the most liquid asset class out there, like, I don't know, Bitcoin or whatever. That's never going to happen. That's never going to it's never going to be the case, right? So we need to, set reality. What is reality? And at the same time, how we can use this reality into an opportunity. So in the current context of the Dubai pilot, we opened the secondary marketplace where people can list the tokens 24/7 in a marketplace, buying and selling at any point in time. Have 100% of the tokens being sold? Absolutely not. It's impossible. Some people have listed them at plus 15 premium, which also is its whole separate question altogether. But some of them listed it at market value, which is anyways updated on a quarterly basis, very transparently to investors. And some of them have listed it at discount, and they were able to liquidate, right? Some of them are still pending, but most of them, more than 70% of the people who listed at below market rate, have actually been able to liquidate. And the third point is global access, right? So I think, Dennis, you made a good point, and it's a fact that only UAE residents are allowed to invest on PRYPCO for the time being, and that's, let's say, a choice by nature that we decided to do because it's a pilot program and we're building the rails to open it up to everyone around the world. But that is going to be a very important lever, let's say, to unlock real estate tokenization for everyone globally, because now you're not only bringing liquidity of your local market, but you're bringing it from everywhere else in the world. And that's going to obviously start increasing the pool of people coming in, and then you can start adding different services to to that token specifically, such as collateralization or adding a loan to it and bringing more liquidity to it. So there's a lot of aspects that you can add on top of it, but there are definitely a lot of challenges that you need to overcome, and that's not going to happen overnight, right? We're talking about the technology that was born literally 15 years ago, right? Gold's been there since day one. The stock market was launched in the early 1900s, so we're still very early on in the journey, and there's only good ways that, or only positive opportunities ahead of us.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, I will always say that blockchain technology is still a teenager, and we just need to help it grow a little bit in an adult, and we can only do it all together. Denis, what is your opinion? What are several of the points that you can name as obstacles?
I'll try not to agree, but I do agree, Joseph. Very well said. And I know you're looking at it from a Dubai perspective. I look at it from a supply and demand perspective, and the matchmaking of those two. I think that's the biggest challenge when it comes to real estate tokenization. A lot of times, tokenizing real estate means some form of raise or financing that needs a certain target to unlock the specific deal. And I think that's a challenge, right? Because it's raising funds on a specific target, otherwise the deal doesn't happen. That's like this crowdfund type of thing. Also, another thing that's I think making it harder is that currently the supply side is mainly focused on very small non-institutional assets, right? And the investors looking at these deals are investors who predominantly are in crypto, have a bit larger portfolio. It's not like somebody who has 10K in crypto and is, then trying to diversify, because those are after the 10X, right? Because they want to do 100K out of 10K. But it's those who made a couple of millions maybe in crypto, and now they're diversifying the portfolio, right? And those have always the option of buying an apartment and rent it out. Obviously, it's a bit of work, but if that's the comparison, do you buy it through a token and then you have all this other additional risk of needing to research the structure of it, etc. So in Dubai, they attach it to title, which is convenient, right? But essentially, I think when we start seeing assets of larger scale that are very hard to access for any investor that has a couple of million net worth, then we will see more liquidity coming in, because then you can't compare it to what can I do traditionally, I think that's one thing. Another thing is policies on tax. If taxation applies only on conversion into fiat, then a lot of this money is going to stay in tokenized form, and it's going to find investments on chain without going off chain. So then, the comparison becomes like, if I go and invest traditionally. For instance, in an interesting part, in some countries in Europe, crypto is not taxed if you hold it for a specific period of time. And that's very interesting, especially if the way you tokenize real estate is regulated under MiCA regulation, because then it's a crypto asset. And for instance, the way we tokenize real estate, it basically outputs a token that is a crypto asset from a regulatory perspective, not a tokenized security. And that implies a different benefit on the taxation side. So all of these things together then make demand come in. And as soon, demand start regularly being invested in tokenized real estate assets, the more supply is going to be brought on chain. And once, you trigger this cycle and rinse and repeat, I don't think it's going to stop. I think it's just going to continue to grow. But we are now not seeing a lot of this growth because it's very small. It's, you compare it to the trillions of RWAs being tokenized, mainly it's stablecoins, by the way. And real estate is the only other asset that everybody has experienced besides fiat. Everybody knows fiat. You buy, I don't know, ice cream and coffee with it. And everybody knows real estate because you either live in it, rent it, or own it, or work in it, or walk on it. So, and there's no other asset class that we as a species are familiar with. So I think real estate has the same potential as stablecoins.
Sounds good, Baru. What is your opinion? I think that I lagged a little bit. Can you hear me well, guys?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Awesome. Yep.
So I think there's no so-called biggest obscure. It's sort of a logic chain. There are plenty of factors here. For example, the ordinary investors, in most of the regions now, you can just directly invest in some asset-backed securities in multiple regions. Like for UAE now, for crypto, they basically didn't doesn't just tokenize a financial product. It's tokenizing the register of the Dubai Land Authority, right? So for example, in Hong Kong, there's a tokenized commercial building that is only for the professional investors in Hong Kong. Because in Hong Kong, you have to apply for the SFC's authorization in order to make your product to the retail investors. And I think in Europe, you have to your union, you have to apply for the so-called passport for your product or for the fund manager. So, and of course, this is the sort of things that we often mention, that is the consensus, and I think it's basically, or fundamentally, it's just the investor education. Yeah. So for ordinary investors, look at this product. It's fundamentally it's just a register, for crypto, and for Hong Kong, it's and Europe, I think, it's a financial product. So the ordinary investor just see the uncertainty, and of course, in most area, there's no clear regulation and no track record of this sort of things, and no clarity, on custody or any downside, because the custody is on the blockchain itself, right? And downside protection. So, and moreover, the real estate is, basically the most conservative part of the most household portfolios. Ordinary people usually don't gamble with that. So basically, there's no trust among the ordinary people, and so no trust means no liquidity, and liquidity means the core premises in including easy exit, fair pricing, and without this, there will be no materialization of it. So, and meanwhile, the traditional real estate funds and some private equity funds are they're just there. They are familiar with and well regulated. Especially, I think I actually consider myself as a a more younger generation. And for the past 50 years, the most of the society wealth is held by like the people at my parents' age. They actually, I think they have quite a hard way to learn how the blockchain work. So in order to pull this capital away from the last generation, the generation that didn't really understand how to understand the blockchain, we need more than just just a product. We need a sort of much more massive investor education. Of course, in Hong Kong now, the Hong Kong stablecoin is actually licensed already, but in the market, there's still a few people talking about it. So and of course, there's more traditional funds that these people can understand. So now we need a clear and more compelling reason for these investors to switch. And unfortunately, right now, I don't think there isn't strong reasons. Well, in Hong Kong, I suppose, but for them to transfer this and switch this to my side. So if we really trace back to the root cause, well, I think it's still the regulatory uncertainty, and only by fixing that, there can be massive move.
Okay, Thank you, Borui. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, Dennis. I think that what I'm hearing from all three of you is that there isn't one giant wall standing in the way. It's more like an obstacle course. Joseph, your point about education really stands out because technology only works if people understand why they should trust it and use it. If, as you mentioned, how can I say it? If around like half of the region wealth is still held in cash, then the conversation starts long before tokenization. It's about helping people become comfortable with investing in the first place. Dennis, I also agree that liquidity follows quality, and institutional scale assets could attract a very different type of investor than small experimental projects. But for now, small experimental projects also feeling good as well. Um, Baru, restricting the opportunities only to professional investors, I liked it. That point can slow adoption down because access becomes narrower just when we're trying to broaden participation. So maybe the biggest challenge is that we just need to build several things at once, and education and regulation and liquidity and trust. Somehow plant the seed into the government's heads so they can be the best marketing channel for the whole technology itself. But unfortunately, there is not a magic blockchain button marked solve everything for now, even if the industry would love one. So yeah, let's see if anyone has good government connections. Let's work together on that because I genuinely think that there are uh, several QLs left in a blockchain space. I will not name the names, but you know them. I'm done. I think that we're out of time on our air for today. And if you have some final thoughts on the panel, on the topic itself, maybe you have some questions for the audience, maybe you want to inspire, maybe you want to challenge them, feel free to express your final thoughts. Or maybe there are some updates on inside the companies that you would love to share. Joseph?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, feel free to reach out to us. I'm also reachable on LinkedIn, where on the PRYPCO social media as well. Thank you a lot, also, Polly, for moderating this amazing session. I think you've summarized all of our points in a very good way, and also it was great meeting Denis and Boru as well. And looking forward to meeting you in person, hopefully in one of your countries, or maybe here in Dubai.
Awesome. Thank you. Dennis?
Oh, again, thank you, Polly, for an amazingly moderated panel. Enjoyed the conversation. I think more conversations like this are going to definitely help on the education side, as Joseph mentioned. Opening up to more broader investors is something that's important. I remember when we started, there was no concepts, no technology, no RWA actually as a hashtag. So we had to build the tech first, find a legal model, change the legal model, change the legal model again. There was no regulation. Then regulation came. That finding another legal model that is compatible with the regulation. So it's an ever evolving thing, right? Then you have this crypto cycles, that impact investor demand, and then as the vision of tokenized real estate. We've been through a couple of bear markets and bull markets, and um, it just keeps on growing. Real estate will be tokenized. That's 100% sure. It's going to happen. It's a future that's inevitable. How people are going to be invested in real estate will change drastically. If now people hold cash, real estate will become cash because it's cash that yields, and it has a steady growth. And I think from that perspective, how people will need to educate themselves in terms of being investors, because now we're consumers. We're a global consumer base. And we need to change our mentality, and things are happening, honestly, with crypto. A lot of people educated themselves about finance. with DeFi, finance became something for the regular Joe to understand. And this education is growing, but it's self-education. And unfortunately, I have four children and in different ages, and they don't learn anything about finance in school. And I'm talking about, from 3-year-old to 16-year-old, they don't learn about finance. It's something that we as parents and adults need to educate younger population about finance. And I think then we will see a change overall in how these products, assets, tokenized assets are being consumed as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Dennis. But I think that it's pretty fortunate that you have four children, though. And that is a pretty cool. But it is unfortunate that there is no education, neither in schools or in university programs. I would host a separate session in terms of the whole educational system in the world, but unfortunately, it's not related to finance or Web3. But maybe it will. Boru, feel free to express your final thoughts as well.
Well, thank you, Polly, for having me again, and for your articulate hosting, and thank you, Joseph and Dennis, for your sharing. And it's very insightful. So so we'll talk about this tokenization things. I think in most area is still a pioneer area where maybe I think in 5 to 10 years it will be a much more acceptance of the ordinary people. Of course, people like us need to try to move this forward, because I really think that this is the future. So I think we, these people, and of course our listeners, and participating in this, I think it will be a great community. And as for Hong Kong, Finloop, we are actually one of the Hong Kong oasis, which is backed by the government enterprises. So we talk to governments a lot. We want to expand our influence, of course, the influence of Hong Kong, this international city, to the world. We are happy to involve more counterparties. No matter it's listing their tokenized product on our platform, or have other kind of collaboration with us. I think the Hong Kong government and of course Finloop will be welcoming everybody. And actually we actually already contact with PRYPCO. And I think in the near future we will be push forward our collaborations. And for Denis, I think it will be great to share this panel with you. So I think my wrap is just let's just continue to make our contributions to this community.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure hearing your thoughts and learning from you. And I think one thing is pretty clear: real estate tokenization is no longer a theoretical idea, and the technology exists. The interest is growing, and the use cases are becoming more practical. So the debate now is less about if this will happen and more about how, where, who will lead the way. So we also heard that progress is rarely as fast as conference headlines suggest, though real estate remains a highly regulated, relationship-driven industry, and meaningful change takes time. But if today's conversation showed us anything, is that the people building this space are becoming more focused on solving real problems rather than chasing taglines or hype, as everyone is saying in Web3. A huge thank you to our panelists. Thank you, Borui. Thank you, Denis. Thank you, Joseph. Hopefully, one day we'll meet each other somewhere in Dubai or Hong Kong or Singapore. There's going to be a major conference in autumn. So yeah, thank you for sharing your expertise and honest perspectives. Thank you everyone for joining us at RW Week Online panels. Enjoy the rest of the week, of the day. Keep asking difficult questions, and remember, sometimes the biggest innovations don't arrive with fireworks. Sometimes they arrive disguised as better infrastructure. So yeah, okay. see you on next panel. I'm keeping your time here. So yeah, thank you everyone. Bye bye.